mental illnesses that may have occurred during that event?
No.
Why?
Again, we're not trying to feed the defendant or Ms. Stauch any particular information that she could then give back to us as it pertains to issues of mental illnesses, diagnoses, symptoms that might be present. We want to get her version as purely as she's able to give it to us.
And would that be standard practice for forensic psychologists, forensic psychiatrists, Friday, in Colorado, not to do that, not to suggest diagnoses to the subject as you're interviewing?
Correct.
And so with that, Dr. Torres, we're going to play this video clip. It's about 1 hour and 14 minutes long. You're more than welcome to sit back here during if you like. But Your Honor, at this time, we would be publishing People's Exhibit 725 in its entirety.
Over here.
Yeah, we're going to play it from over here.
All right, so this may be the most difficult part of the day. To talk to us about what happened on the day of the event. Maybe things leading up to it.
Where do you want me to show you?
Well, where do you think it begins?
Well, I already told you guys before that I was going to leave, right? And I was just waiting to get everything in order. I moved it back somewhere else where I could be, mentally okay and not have to deal with like these people that wanted to find out about this car accident. So I had to escape from them. So I started planning to get a place to stay. I was going to work as a flight attendant, get all that information like I told you guys for landed back. Then stopped working at my job. I thought I was going to stay again. I was the job for it. I wasn't because I still live in Colorado. So no matter where I went in Colorado, the mob, the mafia, I got people looking into it, investigator to find out where he's from, but I had to get away from him. Yeah. So I got a new job and all that. I was getting ready to go work as a flight attendant. It came back in January. It was around like the 9th or 10th, I think it was. I picked them back up from the airport. That was that, like, transition period, getting everybody back, in the mode, in the routine and all that. Then we went on the cruise. We went on the cruise on January 16th. With me and Albert, and the kids stayed at home by themselves with Hardin and the babysitter. And it was weird because, I get to the port from Lauderdale, but they had lost my bags. So I was like freaking out, thinking that one of these people took my bags. So I changed my whole route of where I was going. So instead of going on that one cruise, we hopped on another cruise because I didn't know if they had got my itinerary for where I was going. And the kids were at home, you know what I mean? So I changed my whole itinerary to go to Palm Beach. I really went to Fort Lauderdale. And I kept telling Albert, I was like, I thought I saw that guy, I know they're following us. And he was just like, no one's going to go through that stream over a car. Anyway, so we ended up going on the cruise. I changed our whole route and everything. And we come back from the cruise. Well, the moment I get back from the cruise, Gannon approaches me and he says, he was like, your friends came by in that black car looking for you. So I started freaking out because I know it's the same black car. They came to Red Elementary and search and find me. So I told him, I said, can you explain what the car looked like? I wanted to see if Edgar has a black car too. So I was like, well, it could be Edgar's car, So he explained the car, and it definitely wasn't Edgar's car because Edgar had the Beamer. started getting my paranoia was getting really bad. So I wouldn't go to the mailbox. I wouldn't go wherever. I was going to work, and I was putting, like I said, the visors up in my car because I thought that they could see me. I'd go take breaks at work and freaking out because I just started this job at District 20, and I didn't want them to think, you know, like I was just losing my mind or something. So I'd go to my car and try to like, figure out what to do. So fast forward, those were like 2 or 3 days. It was Nina's birthday, January 22nd. So, you know, we're celebrating her birthday. Well, I rode all the way to get Albert's mom because I was scared to stay at home by myself. Like, I didn't know if they were going to clear our house or not. Prior to that, like, I got in trouble with the Colorado Sheriff's Office because I made a call to 911 and told them I thought somebody was in the backyard. Well, they send people out and they find out there was nobody in the back. They say there's nobody. I don't believe it. They look at my alarm status and they're like, you could get in trouble for making false reports to the police, right? This was right in that time frame. And so I rode to the airport to get Albert's mom on Lena's birthday, and I basically wouldn't like leave out of people's sight, you know what I mean? Like people that could be around that knew could help protect me, whatever. Fast forward on a couple of days, you know, I was trying to go to work. This would be all over the place, you know. And so January 26th, that was the day that Kobe Bryant had died in a helicopter crash. And we were going to go to church that day. Well, there was this guy who was saying he was Michael the Archangel now. That's why we didn't go to church on January 26th. It was a Sunday. Now, first of all, I told y'all where my faith is in Jesus. We had a business card that said Michael the Archangel. So I'm like thinking, I even asked my, you know, attorneys this, and they got some back and forth, like, why do you think this man was doing this? He was trying to keep us from going to the church, you know? Turn the car around. And so we're just going to go on the hike because, you know, if Kobe Bryant died, I love Kobe Bryant, you know, we're just going to hike instead. So we're on the hike on January 26th. And I'm like talking to the kids about everything. And the woman was warning, he knew I was packing boxes. I think like knew about the flight attendant. Mine was always me. I said, geez, you have to wait till Wednesday. I said, because I'm going to talk to your mom to make sure the flight attendant goes through whatever. Well, when we were on this hike, as we're talking about this, you know, like the thing that happened earlier with the whole Michael the Archangel, that's when something started telling me that we don't have to be a white family to jump, because if it'd be a black family, it would never make TV, which you guys know that would be definitely true because there's a lot of racism still in the country, you know what I mean? So throughout the day, like this kept happening with the whole Michael the Archangel guy, you know? And I'm like, why is this guy? I didn't know if the people were getting him to come as Michael the Archangel and get him to come there, if it had anything to do with the side from the accident, that was a regular accident or what. The Bonnie told the kid, I said, look, let's just go on home. You know what I mean? Like, the day's been too much of a hard day. Let's just go. Gannon was complaining with his stomach because he had, like, food all over. Yeah, like I told you, his back down, problem. Well, we get ready to go home. I hadn't gotten dinner yet. So I leave them and back home, eat dinner, bath, or whatever. Me and Lena go get food, have meals, do whatever. Charlie was at work. So we come back, feed them, do everything, you know, like a normal thing. My mind is still sitting there about this whole, I feel like it was God trying to tell me something, you know, this whole arch. You know, so my mind was stuck on that. So I was like, let's call it early night, guys. Let's just, you know, after that happened today with the whole helicopter, it was just like not a good day that normally we have on hikes. So then we leave. I'm like, so, yeah, we'll go get happy, let's come back. Call it a night. And I'm in the bed, just like relaxing or whatever. And I hear the alarm on fire, 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 fire. So I just am immediately freaking out. The next 30 minutes of that, 30 minutes-ish, was a glare. You know, like a glare. So, like, where I went, like, I went into protection. And I got the dogs, Lena, and took her outside because they were the first people I saw upstairs, you know what I mean? So I was thinking get the safe people out first, you know? But I'll come back and get ready to run down the stairs to go back to get G, and I had socks on. So I slipped down the whole stairway or whatever. That's how my blood gets on the baseboard. I bumped my head against the baseboard because I was running so fast down the stairs to get down to where I see smoke at this point. As soon as I see the smoke, I go into panic mode. Like, I was like having flashbacks of, you know, like all the fires I've experienced. I went down the stairs. Going back out the front door again, and then realized Gannon's downstairs. Go back downstairs. And then I went back down the stairs again, and Gannon's on the sofa, and the fire is around the sofa. So I reach over to grab him, and when I do, he was like wrapped in the covers. So I grabbed the covers, and when we both were on the fire, the last part of that was just being down on the fire. I didn't remember anything again until we were in the truck, but all of us were safe in the truck. So, like, I don't remember running out at that point in time. I know that I did because the alarm doorbell camera showed that we run out the house. But I don't know if I just associated there, if it was just so traumatic. I don't know what happened from the time we went down in the fire to going out to the car, except my doorbell, the camera system. So they have camera footage. I go out, we get in the car, and I just pull off. Because again, me, I'm a runner. That was it, to just run away. He's hysterical, Lane is hysterical. I'm trying to figure out what is going on. Is the house burnt down? Do we have a house to live in? You have to remember, for me, a fire is this size, and it speaks to me. So I go back to this house because there's this fire. But like, the gas tank was on empty, but someone kept telling me, just keep driving. Your car's just going to go on empty anyway. Just keep going. Don't worry. Your car's just going to keep going. Don't worry. Somehow, in between that time, I end back up to the house. Again, that was a gap that I don't remember. But I text Hardin according to the messages and says, it's okay, there's a fire, everybody's okay. And I send her a picture of the fire. Harley's freaking out, like, okay, I'm on the way home. Is Gannon okay? I said, and I wrote her back on the message, and I said, he has some burns from the fire, but everybody's okay. So Harley comes in, the house is like, smelling like smoke or whatever. We're opening windows or whatever. Harley basically took charge on that part. She started just opening windows. I'm like, Mom, it's okay, calm down. So I was all hysterical all over the place. And they all wanted to, like, everybody just be together, because to me, all I could keep thinking about was, if I couldn't have got to Gannon, he'd have, like, burned up on the fire, you know what I mean? So I was just all over the place. Well, we all just decided to lay on the sofa together. That was on January 26th. So we're all just laying on the sofa together, just trying to, like, figure out the plan. Like I said, it's okay. I said, I'll have one of my friends. He goes by the name Guam. I'm not going to give it your name. I was like, I'll have one of my friends Guam get somebody to come over and fix it. Not going to be a big deal or whatever. And then that's where this whole, like, video goes on. And then about the fires, why did he said it, whatever. I remember I told you earlier, I record everything. I wanted to have that too, I didn't know how it started. I was upstairs when it started. And so he's telling me that he set the fire, but he didn't mean to set it. And was like, all of that. So we're just trying to come up with a plan to fix it. Now, if you look at the video, people took it out of context. When I say we can sell the sofa, I don't mean you can look at our house. We have plans. You gotta think of the country flame top, meaning we can get a new sofa. So that got taken out of complete context of what we were saying, which I think my missus said I was all hysterical. Well, y'all were just on the sofa. I was like, I'm gonna get someone to come fix it or whatever. That's totally fine. They brought the number to the garage. I said, hey, I'm going to go to work tomorrow, kids be going to school. If you can get someone to fix it, just replace the carpet, whatever, I'll pay you whatever. So, like, I have memory, out and in up until then, right? But where the gaps came in was what happened during that time frame. So I hear the garage open at some point during the night. I don't know if I was having a nightmare, or I don't know if the garage was really opening. I don't really know because I was so heightened about this fire. So I kept going through the house thinking that there was someone in the house, and I kept running up down the freaking garage, kept coming open. I'd open the door to the garage, nothing. I didn't see the garage being moved or anything. Again, I don't know. I remember coming back in the house, and I was just like, I woke up again. I guess that's when I text my boss. I don't remember this part. The message went to my boss that said that my stepdad had died. I remember my stepdad died when I was 19. But I didn't snap back out of it until later on. that really wasn't the same day that my stepdad had died, right? So then I think I hear somebody in the garage again. Okay, well then I go out to the garage and I tell Harley, I said, Harley, I'm going to shut the door to the garage and lock it, because if you shut the door from the inside and you come into the garage, like nobody could get to the inside. And I was like that paranoid, So I don't remember, but the doorbell cam, I'm like walking out, I guess looking in the yard, trying to figure out what's going on. But then I remember being in the garage naked. And so I don't know who was in my garage. So when I talk to police, that's how all the stuff came about being raped and stuff, because I don't know if I'm having a flashback of that. I don't know if someone was really in the garage. To me, someone was in the garage because I was naked. And when I say naked, like I was in like Amy's bra, like, and I knew the door had been closed earlier, but why was the door open that I had locked earlier in the day, like early in the night? But when I get like that and I think somebody's around or whatever, I go into protective mode and I'll walk the whole time and I'll watch the yard and I'll be like on the zone of thinking someone's coming in the house, I don't know neighbors in Colorado. I'm doing something where I could call a neighbor, And so the next thing I remember is Lena coming back in to brush her hair, which would have been at least 3 hours later, okay? I'm basing this on my cell phone records, you know what I mean? I snapped out of it when Lena asked me to brush her hair. Now, you got to remember, like when Maria comes, they're in that world, but like they're not, it's protected, you know what I mean? I don't remember sending anything to the boss about my stepdad, you know what I mean? It was 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So Lena gets up, and I remember brushing her hair, and I come back, and I'm like looking around, and I was like, oh, there was a fire. Why was I in the garage? Why was I this? That's when it started being like, did I dream this? Did this really happen? You know what I mean? So I go out to the garage, you know what I mean? That's when I grabbed my head, and there was like matted blood on my hair. So I knew that I had really fell down the stairs. Like I thought I fell down the stairs, you know what I mean? And so the matted blood was on my hair, whatever. So I just kept like messing with my hair, like trying to figure out what had went on. Well, I knew Gannon had burns on his arms. I evaluated him that next morning when I snapped back into it. I didn't think that it was enough to go to the hospital or whatever. Because I was leaving, I had an extra cell phone. It was the phone I put in the dog food when I got arrested. So on that phone, I called in. That's how the call came in that Gannon wasn't going to school that day. They couldn't figure out like where this call came from. That's because it came in from the extra phone. Holding my Gannon, so maybe he still was doing He's upset. He doesn't want to smell around the kids when he has this accident. So we stayed out for the day. I realized on my phone that I had sent that message to the boss, and I was just like, what is going on? Like, I didn't remember sending it, but I don't know. Why was I thinking about my stepdad, what was going on? And I kept having these, at this point now, became flashbacks in the garage. And I was like, who was in the garage with me? But the whole time it was about Eduardo, which is the guy that Guam got to work to fix the carpet or whatever. That's who I kept like having flashbacks with in the garage. So we go forward, whatever. And I told Gannon, I said, you said you wanted to stay home. I said, no. You said my friends in the car came by. I don't want you here by yourself. You're going to go with me. I said, go grab your cover. You're going to go with me for today. I don't want you here by yourself. Now, typically, I let a kid stay home by herself because I researched Colorado law and it said that it was up to the parents and their discretion of how had to be had to stay home. So I never had a problem with it. They would get off the bus before I get home. No issues. We had an alarm. They had cell phones, everything. But so my paranoia was so bad that I was like, no, you're going with me today. So we did the cover. I moved the cars. And don't remember that part, but it's on the camera. Moving the cars. And I drive the truck for the day. I go get a bike. Part of the moving process will be boxes like that. So I was glad that the truck was left for me to use. So me and him get in the car. I think it says around like, no, before we get to 10 o'clock. Albert never writes the stats at all that night about anything. So the next morning, and he's like, oh my God, you're fired, right? And I looked at my phone and I didn't see anything. So that's why at first I thought, did the fire really happen? Because I never got a message back from Albert, But then that morning, he messaged back, and I said, yes. I was like, he's okay. So that's when I sent a picture of Gannon in the bed. Okay? So I was like, yes, he's fine. He's laying down. You know, he didn't go to school today. I called it in. I'm not going to work. I didn't go into explaining to Albert about me sending the message, losing my mind, don't know what's going on about. I don't want him to be like, you know, freaked out 1,000 miles away. So I told Gannon, let's just go out shopping for the day. Remember, we go get coffee that morning. We go get like Dunkin' Donuts. I think they had me at Dunkin' Donuts. I don't remember going to the gas station, but they had me at the gas store. Just basically going about shopping for the day. However, when I get to the PetSmart, these black cars come by PetSmart. And we're seeing cars on the freaking camera at PetSmart. Gannon's got his switch in the car laid out. Remember, I told you, he had burns in his arms and a few right here. Now, not that they were very small. We're talking like centimeters, okay? They were anything that you would think that they needed medical attention. The car comes by PetSmart. So you see me on the cameras at PetSmart running back to the door, like looking out. My first thought was I wanted to make sure G was okay in the car because he was playing in the switch. Well, the car came back by. I go back into PetSmart, come back to the door. And like if you watch the camera footage of the PetSmart, you see me going back and forth to the door. Like, because how did they know where I was at this point? And that was Edgar's car because Edgar has a Beamer. Okay. And it was not a Beamer. So I leave the PetSmart. I think they said I bought something. Again, I don't remember. I leave the phone. Now, this is the only phone I had, which was Gannon's phone, because I was trying to hurry out to the car. And so I leave the phone at PetSmart according to the GPS on the phone. So we go out, finish the day, we get Valentine's candy, and I'm like questioning Gannon all the time of like, what did they think else when they came to the house? What did they look like, you know, like trying to get the best information I could get out of him because he was pretty good at like his age, like, you know, like, okay, he's little, like if you say, was it a purple shirt? And even no, it was not purple, it was blue, purple stripe. That's, you know, so I knew I could get good information from him. So then we were driving on the back road, okay? The only reason we took a back road was because this road called 25 was backed up. And so we took a back road to go to Castle Rock. And this guy lived in Castle Rock. So we go to the site. Then we're going to ride by this address that was on that police report. And I was going to ask him, please stop. Like, whatever you want. Did you want money? Like, I didn't do anything to your car. I wasn't involved in this accident. Like, you have all my information. Now, the insurance had already deemed I wasn't responsible for it and that I was on a plane. Well, I was going to think about, you know, like, talking to this guy. I probably would have chickened out when I got there, but that was my mindset. So we go on this back road, which I think is called County Line Road. We go on County Line Road, and Gannon talk about, we're going to go with the castles. And so I'm, like, looking for the castles to try to, like, show them the castles, because there was, like, some castles that are, like, then I got mixed up, and I was like, oh, shoot, I don't have a cell phone to see how to get out of here, because I got to leave the cell phone. And so I couldn't figure out how to get out there. So I'm, like, doing U-turns, and then I freak out, because I thought the guy walking was my stepdad. That's why I was telling the police and the people that I was trying to, like, back the car up and go back forward, because he could be dead. And I don't know if it was just from that morning, because I sent my boss that text message or what, but he was on that road. So I backed the car up, go back again, and I'm freaking out because he was dead. This point is when I realized I'm not stable enough to be in fights, just going to talk to people or anything. So I parked the car for a minute, take a break or whatever. I don't know how long the break was. I remember taking the break. I remember tapping me on the back of the shoulder, like, TC, we gotta go, like, gotta get late from school. That's when I snapped back into it. And I remember driving the car back out the highway, like out of the County Line Road, to go back to the house. So remember I told you I was talking again throughout the day, he said something about these kids that were bullying. Not him, but Lena. And Albert wanted him to go do something to these boys. So him told that Lena got hit with something. I was going to go talk to that kid. That kid's mom lived on Wando. So we come back into the neighborhood, into the part where Wando drives at. Now, rewind a few days prior to that, him and the kid had been called. They're like the Smarty candy and they're like rolls. Well, they had been called a few days prior, like fashion the Smarty candies, and like they were doing drugs or whatever. My opinion was he should not have out this kid. So I was going to go try to talk to this parent. But once I had this whole, like, my stepdad was on that road, I freaking stopped the car at Wando, the Gannon, how about you do this? Because he wanted a video game. I said, why don't you go to the mailbox, get the mail, and do your laps, and I will buy you that $60 game you wanted. They know we had been shopping and only bought him at $20. So I told her at this point, I'll give you points to give you the $60 game. So go to the mailbox and do your laps or whatever. So I don't know if Gannon got back in the car with me then or Gannon walked back to the house then, but we ended up back at the house on January 27th. So if you see the videos, you see me like pull in, drive back, do all this stuff. I don't remember all that. I don't know if I still thought that I was trying to like walk around and that. I just remember I went in the house and I just sit down and was like this is crazy. You know what I mean? The alarm says I kept going to the back door and all over the house and like go up and down and around and whatever. Well, what threw me off was when I got back to the house, right? The alarm showed there was motion in the house, but there couldn't have been because I set the alarm before I left, but I put it on alarm stay. Because the dogs are in the house, people would say that could have been what triggered the alarm. No, our dogs are in crazy. That's not what triggered the alarm. Couldn't have been. And so I ran downstairs thinking, okay, well, maybe go ahead, Eduardo, come over here and fix this, carpet or whatever. So I ran downstairs, whatever. At some point in time, like I said, I don't remember getting walked back in the house or drove back with me. But he then comes back into the house. Said he's going to go play on the game. And I said, did you do your laps? And I remember us having that conversation. Then I go back upstairs to work out. What the police have about January 27th, absolutely not true because it's January 28th. Okay? So the day goes on through that, right? Everything happens. I don't know where Gannon's at. I called the police. All that was going on. Everything that happened on that time was going on. They came in our house with, I think it was like 15, 20 body cams. You can clearly see, and I watched these body cams until I made myself sick, that you can see these body cams come in and nothing is out of order. Nothing has happened. Nothing is wrong at all. And I watched them over and over and over until I obsessed on them, When Harley comes home, Rena come in that day, we were going to go eat sushi. Gannon is not a fan of sushi. So at this point in time, I'm like, we'll figure out something else to get. Gannon usually is home by the time that if the sun's not down, it'd be 6 o'clock. But it was raining. So we get in the car, they have us on the car raining, like leaving in the rain. So right there across the street, ask this neighbor if we've seen him. No, you haven't seen him. So we pull back up. I start freaking out. I'm pacing the house, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Because I'm like, he's doing this specific hiding challenge. Now, reverse back to this hiding challenge. They have a YouTube channel. Their mom and stepdad made. And like, if you find their YouTube videos, Cool Kids Tubes is their YouTube channel. They would do these hiding challenges where like Elena would be in the box. And they would pretend like they were getting shipped all these places. We went over the rules with it, me and the mom. Nothing we thought was bad about the kids wanted to do YouTube videos. Flashback. So I said, he's doing this hiding challenge. So at first, police were talking to me. I'm just sitting there like, man, he said, do you want, and I know this because I saw it in the video, do you want me to check the house? And I said, yes. Because I knew the hiding challenge police had trained. You can't tell me this many police came in the house and didn't find him. You can't tell me that. That's because it was not true. So they did all this, whatever. The night goes on. Robert calls me back, and I'm wreck at this point. I'm telling him about this craziness, and I'm telling him about the garage, all over the place. All the stories, it kind of like started like throughout the day. It was common, rings all over the place. And I'm going back and forth like this, and the fire. So he sends the officer back to check on me. According to the report, the officer comes back to check on me, and at this point is when I got scared. At this point, I know Gannon enough to know his meds wears off. He's going to get everything. At this point in time, we haven't even eaten dinner. I haven't even fed the kids. We never even made it to our dinner trip. So that's when I became really, really, really worried. All of us are in the house, and they went on different searches, whatever. I stayed at the house to make sure of anything, if anyone called, if anyone done anything. That was the last thing on January 27th before it hits January 28th. January, you want to keep on January 28th now? Do you want to keep on January 28th, or did you need it? Okay. Yeah. So then January 28th, which would hit 12 a.m. in the morning, right? The January 28th comes on. There's people like, whatever, there's a knock on the window. My bedroom window, right? So I had decided that we were going to all sleep upstairs. The reason for that was, I get paranoid like that, and the only way I can protect Hardin and Lena is I have them near me. You know what I mean? So I'm like, look, all of us are sleeping up here. We're going to all be up here. I knew I wasn't going to get much sleep. But for the kids, they were going to sleep upstairs. I dozed off for a minute. There's a knock at the door, being at the window. So the knock at the window happens, and I literally go to the window, but I don't see anybody. I remember getting in the car, driving out, because maybe that was Gannon, maybe it was. I drive. Video shows me driving out of the neighborhood, out of the yard, but coming right back or whatever. Or I can't remember. I don't remember that part, but I do know the video shows me going out to the car or something, and I come back inside. I keep hearing the same loud noise, and so I'm laid out like this, hearing the same loud noise, and I know Edgar was on his way back over. Edgar wasn't going to be there when the police was there. But he didn't want any problems or whatever. He was like, I'm going to just go out and look. What does the black car look like? I knew Edgar was going to be on his way back over that morning because they were going to help me move all the stuff to Florida. That was his whole plan, to show back up that morning anyway, not even knowing what that Gannon was missing. So Edgar was coming back for that morning anyway. So I thought Edgar was getting there early or whatever. But I didn't see him out there outside. When I laid on the sofa like this, heard it again, I forgot. At this point, I think someone's in the house. Now, I didn't have my handgun on me because when the police came earlier, if you look at the footage, they had my handgun in the car. They searched the car, searched everything on the body cams. And this is what we came up with between, me and looking details together with my team. My handgun was in my car because it was on the videos. So I don't know if the back door or if he came in through the garage. But I kept telling him I keep hearing someone in the house, and he was like, no, you're just paranoid, you're just afraid, you don't know where Gannon's at. So again, me, Edgar, Angelica, that's Edgar's family, and Lena were all in the house. Harley, Lena, I think Angelica was laying down, and Ty was on his way back. I go to school in Florida. Ty was on his way back here. Whenever that noise again, I realized my handgun is in the car. I said, I never drove my car, it was in the car all day. Me and Edgar don't close, okay? So here, and I start going down the stairs slowly, and I went back up the stairs. And I was like, downstairs. Now, I don't know who's downstairs, what's going on. I don't even know if anyone's in the house or if it's just the people looking or what's going on. When we go back downstairs, Edgar has the other handgun on him. Crossing over the front stairwell is someone in it looks like a cape. Okay? So it's like a cape wrapped around them. Go straight into the back bedroom. As soon as I see him go to the straight back bedroom, I'm going to instantly go with the protection mode. I went to go grab the gun off, from Edgar, because I thought the person in the cape. I didn't know who it was. I happened with the whole Mike with the Archangel. The whole thing had happened with my stepdad. And when I grabbed it from him, the gun hits me and then hits the person in the cape. At the time, I didn't know who the person in the cape was. It's Paul, standing on top of the bed. I didn't know at the time it was standing on top of the bed. Until later on, when I sat down with my attorneys and we put it together and realized it, I didn't know until that point that it was Gannon standing. Because prior to that, I thought the whole cape thing. We put it together over and over and over, and I sit and I cry with them. I did this with them and everything. The only thing that comes to my mind is that the way the cover was wrapped, that's what had to look like the cape, was the way that he had the cover wrapped around him. They can think what they want, whatever about me. I never was purposely hurt Gannon or hurt anyone that I would have thought it would have been Gannon. Never in a million years, okay? Never. I had these kids all over the country. If I was going to do something like that, it was somewhere in another country. Come on, people want to kill people doing it because they want to take someone's life. That's not what happened. They painted me as this monster, and I did all these crazy things. I never once knew it was Gannon. I, in fact, didn't even know it was Gannon until later on. The reason I didn't is Lena, I guess the noise woke Lena up. If you read the reports, Lena told you that she helped carry Gannon's body. That report in her interview, she says on that Gannon's body is not moving. That's because she was there and she helped carry Gannon's body to the car. I couldn't get him up the stairs. I didn't even know it was Gannon at that time until I moved the cover. I lose it. I am all over the place, screaming, crying. That's how Lena hears me. Lena helped me. Now, Harley's still asleep. She hasn't woke up to any of this. Harley's a hard sleeper. Lena helps me tote Gannon up the stairs. I'm throwing up, like, blood, blood, the side of him. Like, I literally don't, Gannon is still alive. Gannon is barely talking. Okay? We try to get him up steps, which we did. We take him up steps. I'm like, all over the place. We get out the garage to go to the car. Not going out. Because at this point, I think I was in complete and utter shock. And I know I'm throwing up because I see all this later. So when I tell you I know I'm doing something, I sit back and read the time and figure, this out because I was just on it. I remember being in the car on the passenger side, and we were taking Gannon to the hospital. But I was on the passenger side, okay? Now my leg's bleeding, which if you look at the footage from the hospital, you can see where I got hit with a bullet, okay? So my leg's bleeding. And that's probably why there was a little bit of my blood on the car. I don't know at this point. I don't know if she went back in the regular party. I don't know anything because I remember waking back up in the car and being like, there's no palm trees. Now, you say, what is palm trees? In South Carolina, when you go to the hospital and there's palm trees, it's on the Grand Strand. That's why it's called Grand Strand. The beach, and then there's palm trees. I didn't see any palm trees when we were in the car, so I didn't think I was on the right road. But I was in the passenger seat, not in the driver's seat. Next thing I know, when I wake back up, I hear a loud noise, like a howling noise, like a loud noise, and it reminds me of like when my grandpa died, and he made like this noise. That was the noise I heard when I wake back up and I'm in the garage, in the car. Now we look at camera footage, and my car does go out. 5 minutes, it'll leave the neighborhood. So what we put together is that it must have been when I went out in the car hearing the noise. That must have been when Gannon took his last breath, and I was still out of it. Go back in and park the car. Or come back to until Lena must have came back outside to the car. And Lena's asking what's going on, what's everything. I go in the house. Harley's face, Lena's face, they're all just like white, like they've seen a ghost. Like they don't even know what's going on. Police, like the whole world, as if this ain't really going on. Like there is no way this happened. Like there's nothing wrong, y'all. Everything's fine. He's gonna be fine. He's gonna be home. That's when I started going through like all the motions of, going to go get this person. Because to me, it wasn't really going on. Like this was, you can't even compare this to a nightmare. To have gone through that, you can't compare it to a nightmare. That is far from a nightmare. And to know that he was speaking to me and Lena as we were trying to take him off the stairwell. And then it was like none of it was real. So I just started going into different personality of like, this ain't really going on. We gotta find him. I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? I guess somehow I go on to the airport. I don't remember any of that, but I want footage going on to the airport. I want footage just talking to people and saying like, we're gonna find him. Like I don't really like remember that vividly, but I know I did it because I've seen it. I'm not gonna lie and say I didn't do it because it was there. It's like me talking to people, me doing it. I got just disassociated, and I was like, this is not real. That there's no way this happened. So Edgar, another male, is a family member, and I'm not gonna say their name. Somehow during this mix, when I was like going crazy trying to go get Albert, and I was screaming, everybody talking about it's an accident, it's an accident. I think they have one of the things reports where I was like, I didn't ever know it was Gannon because I really didn't. It was someone that came. The reason he was taller was because the bed was sitting, like, you think a twin bed, he was standing on the bed. So to me, or to whoever I was, thought that was a person in a cape. That's the only reason at all that the song would have went on. That is the only reason. And like I played this back, like I said 50 million times in my head. Like, was I in the right mind to have turned the light switch on? No. My mind was in the protective mode. Because he wasn't there. The police was there. He wasn't there. Where was he at? Like, this was somebody in the house. It was probably someone trying to molest him. It was probably someone trying to hurt one of us. So what I was already going through with my stepdad earlier in the day, Maria could have thought it was my stepdad. He could have thought it was anyone who was. trying to hurt anyone else in the house. She's going to protect. That part of me is going to protect him, to protect everyone else around me. So there was never a moment. So there's no murder, there's no hurt, there's no intent. Look, I had everything I wanted in my life. Career, this, that, you name it. There was no reason to hurt anyone in my home. I gained absolutely nothing out of hurting a child. But if you negativity, a kid, as crazy as an evil ever, I took care of this kid from so like, go do that. No, I had to carry him upstairs. He was dying. There's never, I could never in a million years tell anybody what it was like. I was not okay. I was not before because I felt working down with someone in a cape. Like, how do you even explain that again, small that you think it's someone in a cape? You can't. You know? So then what happened after was even worse because I never even moved again. I'm not going to incriminate anyone, the male person. I'm not going to do that. Because it wasn't any intent there to harm anybody. There was no intent for anything. I went crazy thinking I could raise one of them and did. I was driving him around the Burger King, trying to get him Happy Meals. I freaking took him back to GameStop to get that $60 game that I told you about that I told him to get earlier. That's how freaking crazy I was going. But I was like, he's going to wake up. You know, I don't know if y'all know Andrew Womack. I tried to find Andrew Womack's house. But he brought his son back from the dead from 5 hours at Memorial. And I grew up watching the Daily Gospel. And Andrew Womack, so I just kept thinking, like, God gives people power to bring it back from like this. It's not supposed to be happening. All I feel, not even believing this is even happening. That's how my mind shifts. Older male person finally at some point told my mom that I had completely lost it because I told you my mom came out here. My mom, brother, they were all like, you have lost it. You can't bring somebody back from the dead. They already knew, but they weren't going to, involve themselves in it. Like, you are going crazy. You need to go to a hospital. I didn't have anything to do with body being moved. I really kept saying he has to get back to China. Well, that's where his grandma and grandpa have a farm. That's where he was there. It was like, the person left me. Couldn't carry it anymore. And the whole thing was to be buried in South Carolina. It wasn't to be like, something else. That was the whole intent. I was not well enough to get him there. That's why the male person is the person who tampered with evidence and who tampered with the body. That was not me. Not that they didn't tell you that. They know with him by weapon and did this part. I'm telling you. It was him. I was the person in the case that was in the house. And then friggin', you think about a cape. What is about colors on a cape? Red, black. What do I think about? What was going on in my mind during the day when I said that? If someone was trying to molest him, someone was hurting these kids, just going through my brain. Or I didn't even have my own handgun on me. I don't even like guns. I can't even shoot them. I'm not even make Maria to shoot them. I can't shoot them. So, yeah. And, for someone to get to hear the truth of it is, like, the hardest thing because people are like, oh, why didn't you turn the light on to see if someone's in a cave? What do you mean? Like, I sit there and told my therapists and people that, like, do you think I had that thought process? There was never even a thought to be like, hey, that's not even a thought I had. There is a thought is when Maria comes, it protects whoever's in this house. That's exactly what happened. There was no pain. There was no hurt. There was no ill will. There was no anger. There was no passion. I looked at every definition they have in this book because I was spent on it. None of that is right. That's not what happened. And you can't even say, like, there's no self-defense because you need to know, I thought this was someone else. Like, how do I know who this is? I'm not in the right mindset to decide, to make that decision. I didn't know right or wrong to who this was, what I was doing. My mind goes to, there's kids in this home, there's Lena, there's Cardi, and one of my kids are missing. That's the mindset. That's the truth. So, I don't know if y'all heard, read, seen, whatever, but that is 100% true. It was on January 28th, not January 27th. I don't know why they're all wrong.
And so we don't know how body ended up in Florida. Am I correct?
And I was so, okay. So leaving, they helped me pack. So because people were going crazy in the neighborhood, they were like threatening to kill me, like all this. So the police allowed me to leave. They came and helped me pack. There's body cam footage of them packing the van up with my clothing and Lisa there. They allowed me to leave. Okay? I'm still in that mindset of like, I don't know what, like, this can't be going on. This is worse than a nightmare. This, in my mind, it kept being like, I'm going to wake up and this is just one of these bad dreams. Like, that's how it's been. Like, this is not happening. Like, there's got to be some camera popped out any moment for some show or something. I don't want to call it denial. It was more so of like, it was not reality. That was not. So they helped me load the car up. There was another male person who, and again, I'm not going to say their name because at the end of the day, it's still my family. He was trying to protect me and was like, you need to stop, you need help, like you've lost your mind. And he was trying to protect me. I'm trying to protect him. I just kept saying, I'm going to Florida and I'm going to drop my stuff off and then I'm going to go to South Carolina because I knew that's where LaRonda and Mac lived. And I just kept yelling at them. LaRonda and Mac lived there. I got to go talk to them. And I know this only through their interviews, what they've said to my people. I just kept yelling. I get to LaRonda and Mac. Somewhere in my brain, I guess it recognized LaRonda Mac or, my parents, his mom, dad. And like, those wrong to whatever help me. So like, one part of my brain was like, just kept that I got to talk to them and I talk to them. So I get in the car. I don't remember really driving. Like they have me on stores where I go and stores to buy stuff and I swear on my breath. I don't even remember going to these stores. I'm not even a driver. I ride on planes. So for me to even be in a car that long, that's how much I was out of this world. And then at some point in time, I'm supposed to like meet them and they call me and they're like, you're losing your mind. We're not going any further. We're not going to South Carolina. I could not get Gannon up to carry him because my mindset kept saying, I'm taking him to South Carolina to his grandparents' farm so he can have a proper burial. Because if he would have been buried, like if Robert would have had control of it in Colorado, he would have never let mom be involved in anything. You know what I'm saying? So like I just kept saying, let's go to LaRonda and Max. They can make a good decision. If they don't know what to do, they can help me bring me back to life. That's when the mill person intervened and kept saying, you're losing your mind. You can't bring somebody back from the dead. And I have to protect them too because I'm not going to go out saying their name. The common thing is you can put two and two together, the mill figures that we hear, but you never hear it out of my mouth. At the end of the day, still. And he was just trying to like figure out why I was going crazy and help me at the same time figure out like this is really reality what's going on. But that was the only reason he ended up in Florida because when they left me, he never wrote. Like, his body was never with me. His body was never in the car. They pulled the whole van apart and seen that there was no DNA evidence at all. And then he was never in the van that I drove by myself. Never. Ever. It wasn't until I get to Florida and I'm telling everybody, like, we have to bring back life, LaRonda could help. Those individuals who flew on an airplane and went to Florida after they got off the airplane, listen, I could not pick Gannon up to carry him anymore. That is the only reason. Or else, I don't know. My investigators have asked me, what was your plan? Was you just going to pull up at the farm in South Carolina? And I said, I didn't have a plan. There was, in my mind, that's probably what I was trying to think about doing is getting to LaRonda and Max, but like, there was never a plan. Like, I don't know if I was going to pull up there and, lose my mind, tell them what had happened. I didn't know. I just knew running has been part of my life. So running always makes things disappear. Like, it's not real. So I was under the impression that this was all just a nightmare, that as soon as I got away from this, I was just going to snap back into it and this was not what happened. But it never happened that way. Then I started, like, when I was in South Carolina, I was telling people crazy stuff. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. I just kept saying to people, it's not what you think. This is not what happened. He's going to come back to life. And, like, all my friends in South Carolina kept being like, what do you mean he's not going to come back? He's going to come back to life. What is going on? And I know by this point, I'm no medical professional. But I know for a fact that I was in a form of psychosis. Because I never in my life have been through hallucinations. I never in my life have been through the things I was going through. To explain that, to think that there was a person in the case, to think that this person was harming somebody. Never had been that height. And it caused me the ruin. It's not me. It's not about me. It's Landon's life. Luna's life. Harley's life. Like, I don't know. One decision that wasn't even right. Every single day. So yeah, to me, sometimes I do check in all reality. They're like, this ain't real. Be back. And with all my heart, I took care of it. Literally gave him enemas. Freaking took him food, did homework, did everything. What? If anything, he wasn't God. You know? Weight loss 2 years. Very simple. Then people make up these things about stab marks. It's not stab marks. Those were from the fire. I've looked at the autopsy report to the point that I've memorized it. They say like 1.2 centimeters, 1.4. We're talking centimeters from the fire. I don't care what they say. There was never anybody doing anything, slicing, dashing, whatever the hell the news puts on there. And that's not true. There were marks in the fire. Which was exactly what I told them. They were on the arms and chest. What I told them when I was going through these stories and my brain was so convoluted. It all went together. And I was talking about the rape. I was talking about the garage. I was talking about marks. I was talking about the bleeding. Like, I was such shocked that all of it went together in these crazy. So it was almost like I was talking my words salad all over the place. Nothing was coherent with one of those things. Didn't really understand what was going on. That ain't no approach that people take to get out of crimes. I've never been a felon. I've never been that. You don't just wake up one day and decide to start murdering people. It's because it was not meant to be. He was missing. Everything in my mind was bad. Some breaking in, some busting in, some gun here, some gun there. I watched this body cam footage so much that like everybody's like, well, where was he at that night? They open the one closet with ornaments and stuff. I swear to you, I see it move. I see it move with the cover. And I'm telling everybody on my team, I'm like, y'all don't see that. Y'all don't see that. That's where he was hiding at. That's where he was at the whole night of the 27th. How did that guy miss him? How did he come in there with freaking body cams, trained to find people, trained like his hiding, trained to that and miss that? How? That's why I go back and forth with everything they have. Because had he not blaming this on him, because God knows I would never blame someone else like that. Had he done that, the outcome probably be different. Yeah, absolutely. I want my solution know that it's not some person in the house getting ready to take another kid, hurt me, hurt her. That real things like that, she doesn't think rational. She doesn't think let's do this the right way. She thinks I'm about to hurt anybody that's about to hurt the people I love. Wow. Hard this pain like you just don't know how bad I just want to sit down with Landon. I can't change my mental state. But you gotta know in your heart it was not her giving it. I didn't go back to teaching kids. Never like I have no history of anything. Like even the FBI testified on the stand and the prelim was like, there's no history of any kind of abuse. She did not abuse these kids. Take their life. Because I was the one that always came to rescue them for everything. And now I don't even get to like even talk Lena goodbye. I don't get to say anything. And she has to think that the world I heard her brother, like, come on. Like, oh. But I looked at the autopsy report and it said like within the jaw, and it was like far away. But I always like try to sit there and try to piece together any of these pieces I'm missing. Like what point am I missing this part? I'm missing this part. Everything is like the evidence all consistent. You're gonna get listen if you're gonna kill somebody. You don't shoot them in the jaw. Murderers kill people. Most female people who kill people are psychopaths and they poison people and they do all this harm. Not even knowing it's them and it hit them in the jaw. And they paint it as this murderer. Just for like some children, like, come on. Never had a scratch on their body. Ever in their life. Ever. So this is happening. And trying to get these people to like understand that is the hardest thing ever. Because that is not, maybe if I hadn't been going through what I was going through in the day, thinking my stepdad was still alive, maybe just like trying to replay everything. Maybe it's like I wasn't worried about these people and I let them stay home that day. You know, maybe you wouldn't have left because I thought the whole car situation, people trying to follow me from stupid car accident thing, like, and I tried thinking that might have switched, that might have kept me from being at the state I was in. But then they like painted this whole thing about cleaning supplies. If you guys have seen the receipt, the carpet powder. I mean, I've memorized the receipt. It's a trash bag, carpet powder, candy, nothing in there ever sent anyone to get cleaning supplies. Pull up the receipt all day long. And say it. But it's not true. Like,
I can understand for it's a lot. Well, it's been a very long day. We'll probably be stopping here at this point in time. We'll wait. And all of them.
so you guys hear like a lot of like stuff getting known to like what people do and stuff. Whatever you do, please just don't ever take the whole mindset these people took. You won't ever find it in my history. Ever. You said ever, nothing like that comes to children.
We appreciate you all.
Work pretty hard to consider all of the
Remember to say a lot, but I don't deserve this. At all. Some people would just be like, oh, I don't have anything to do with it or none of that. From the beginning, I got in and out of it at CJC in the beginning, and I kept being like, this is not real. But at some point, it hits you, and you're like, okay, no, those cameras are coming out. No, this is really going on. And people at the job got to see me, and they're like, wait a minute, something right. Like, you are like, always follow rules. You don't do this, you don't do that. Like, just don't make any sense. And so, I know last time you guys know that they were like, I was hard at the job, but like, once they got to know that that's not who I am, things got easy. Like, they weren't, I say easy, but you know what I mean? Like, they didn't think of me like, of how this is. They started more and more being like, there's something we're missing, and I always just like, you just have no idea of what is actually missing from it. It's not because someone, that's not true. Whether you want to call it that on paper, that's someone's life, it is. There's 100% no determination. Me not turning the light switch on or turning it on, off, on, me determining who was there, who was not, caper, under the cape or not, there was no determination as far as that. And I've read that, every part of that book I told you I read it. There was no determining right from wrong. Because in the reason, is this, in this house, they need to be protected. So that, like, whether he was alive that day or not alive that day, I still struggle with that. Like, I'll still get to jail, like, thinking he's there, having these nightmares, doing whatever, and I'm like, I don't even know when this will stop. Like, I didn't know where to ever stop. He's doing those things.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we'll take our morning recess. If I can have everyone back in the jury room at say 10 till 11, we should be able to start on time at that point. Again, don't discuss case with yourselves, don't discuss case with anyone else. And we'll see you back at 10 till 11. All right, for the jury, please. My bad, sorry about that. Frank, court will call 20 CR 1358. Letecia Stauch, record should reflect the jury has returned to the courtroom. Mr. Young?
Thank you, Your Honor. You might be surprised, but I had some questions based on the last clip that we just saw. So the jury understands, is this the last time that you talked to Ms. Stauch on March 24th, 2022?
That was the first time that we spoke to her for our sanity interview, because we saw her again in June.
I meant, because we saw some other clips that took place, and it looked like there was breaks and sessions where she would leave. Is this the last session on that day that you talked to her?
Yes.
Okay. And at the end, you said you're going to have her come back, and we're going to talk about June in a moment, but did she eventually come back and you asked her some more questions?
She did.
Now, in this particular clip, you and Dr. Gray didn't ask a lot of questions. I think Dr. Gray asked one with about 20 minutes left, and then you said some things towards the end there. Was that unusual?
It depends. Every case is different. Some defendants give practically a full account, almost in the way that Ms. Stauch did the first time that we asked them to explain it to us. Some defendants give a very brief account and require a lot more follow-up questions. So given that she spoke so much, there was a lot to process and a lot to think about and a lot to go through before we could ask further follow-up questions.
But as she's telling these things to you on the clip that we just saw, were you thinking that whether or not that was consistent with what you read in discovery or what you've seen other statements that she made about this incident?
Yes.
Why didn't you ask her those things?
During the first recounting, we usually don't like to interrupt. We like the defendant to just let us know the things that essentially they want us to know. When it comes to things of inconsistencies, that can come up the second time we go through it, or in this particular circumstance, we ended the evaluation that day because I think we had already been going for about 5 hours or 5 hours and a half. In some sanity interviews, we'll ask follow-up questions immediately based off of the notes that we're taking.
Is the entire contact that you and Dr. Gray had with the defendant, Ms. Stauch, on March 24th, 22, was that video recorded?
Yes.
Did you ever talk to her at any time off camera?
No.
During the course of her statement, she alluded to the fact that she's read discovery or read police reports. Do you recall her saying things like that?
Yes.
Do you recall her talking about the body-worn camera that she's reviewed and things like that?
Yes.
She also alluded to the autopsy and said do you remember what she said about the autopsy?
I believe she said she had obsessed over it.
She memorized the autopsy report?
Yes.
Unusual in a forensic setting for someone that you're evaluating in an insanity evaluation, for them to be verbose on discovery and know everything that was been discovered.
Again, this is one of those, it depends. Sometimes people are more aware of what the discovery says in their particular case, and sometimes they're not, or they have less of an idea.
Do you recall her using terms such as psychosis, disassociated, things like that?
Yes.
And are those terms commonly used in your everyday conversations with people?
Not in everyday conversations with people.
She indicated a couple times that she's read the whole book and things like that. Towards the end of the interview, she indicated that I know right from wrong. I read the book from cover to cover. Do you recall her saying something to that?
Yes.
Did that give you an indication that perhaps she may have reviewed the DSM-5?
I had wondered, but I don't know if she did.
You know what I mean? We approach it.
Okay. Conversations with
Yeah.
Dr. Torres. I apologize for that as well.
I look a lot different than he does.
Okay. So we were talking about her knowledge of using words like disassociation, right from wrong, and psychosis. Are those not necessarily right from wrong, but is disassociation a term that is in the DSM-5 in regard to dissociative identity disorder?
Yes.
And does it state in the criteria in the things that might be apparent in someone who suffers from that mental illness, the terms of people may disassociate?
Yes.
And what does disassociate mean in general?
Disassociation is it's a term that is used when a person is no longer able to integrate things like memory, perception, awareness. It can be seen in a few different ways. I mean, we talk about dissociative amnesia, so not integrating memory, forgetting that you've done things. We've talked about more normal components of disassociation that we just reference as absorption. So like when you're so absorbed in a task that you are not really aware of what's going on in your surroundings. But pathologically, there's amnesia, there's derealization, and then there's depersonalization. Derealization is more of a feeling detached from reality. Things seem more like a dream than they do actual life. Depersonalization is almost as though you are in your body observing yourself, but you don't feel integrated.
This is going to sound like I did this on purpose, but I didn't. But for instance, when I called you Dr. Gray, is that a form of disassociation?
I would not say that.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you then what it is, because I'm afraid of what the answer might be. The fact that she gives you this version of events, and we talked about how as she's giving it to you, you may be reflecting back on the police reports and the discovery, thinking that it's not consistent. Do you remember talking about that?
Yes.
When she brings up this thing about going to church, kind of at the beginning of the interview, based on what she's telling you happened on January 26, 2020. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Are you familiar with that? There's police reports that indicate
Object stating facts that are not in it.
Well, the question's not all the way done, so let's wait until we get to the end of the question before we take the objection.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the police reports in this case that talk about surveillance video in that neighborhood and monitoring 6627 Mandan Drive during this entire time frame?
I'm aware of them, yes.
Do you recall reading them?
I likely read them, and I don't remember very specifically what those might have said.
But needless to say, there's reports that talk about movement from that house during a specific time frame. Do you recall reading that?
Yes.
And certainly, if she had gone to church that morning, we would see the vehicle leave on the video camera. Is that right?
Yes.
And you probably don't remember if you read that report or not, but do you remember reading anything about her leaving the morning of January 26, 2020?
I don't remember that.
Okay. The other issue is, are you familiar with reports with regards to her vehicle, the Tiguan, and the GPS data that was on that Tiguan?
Some of it.
If she took the Tiguan to church, would that be reflected in the GPS data?
I would assume that it would be, but I don't remember specifically reading that.
Well, what do you do as a forensic psychologist when someone's telling you something that you know is not consistent or is flat out not true?
Occasionally, we might specifically ask them about that particular point. As I noted, it depends on the relevancy to the question that we are trying to answer, which is what is her mental state at the time of the offense. So this could be an example where what was happening the day before was less relevant for us. As evaluators, we're not there as investigators. We're not there to fact find. We're not there to find out, is what she's telling us the truth or not, but we are paying attention to whether there are inconsistencies in self-report from one conversation to another, as well as in the other data that we have, because that speaks to issues of credibility.
Well, I'm assuming when she brings up about this Michael, the archangel, handing out business cards, and that's what caused her to go on the hike, that something may have been going on there. What was your take on her telling you that?
You know, that particular point, I did have a question about it, but ultimately I don't think that it comes down to very much. It doesn't seem to be an issue of psychosis or dissociation. If it is true that there was an individual there handing out cards, it was just another point in her day.
Okay. Do you recall her talking about the video? The court reporter needs to take a drink. Wait. Okay. Do you recall her talking about a video that she made with regards to the burns on Gannon? How she video recorded everything?
Yes.
Is there any significance as to when the video stopped recording?
I don't know.
Do you recall the video?
I don't recall that video specifically.
If I told you, and this is to get what your opinion is of it, okay, is that the video stops after Gannon says, "I'm worried about my burns," and then she says, "Well, tomorrow," it stops. that any significance to you in your evaluation?
For the purpose of our evaluations, it just helps corroborate that there were burns on Gannon. I don't know about the severity of the burns, but it's interesting that he was worried about them. And then in terms of stopping it at tomorrow, I wouldn't know what to make of that.
Okay. She alludes to her stepfather several times during her narration here. What did you and Dr. Gray take from that?
The references to the stepfather, to me, sounds like she's trying to tell us that she was having flashbacks of her stepfather. At this point, I think we've established her self-report that she had an abusive childhood. So that is our take specifically whenever she mentions him, is that she's trying to make that point.
And does she refer back, as she mentions her stepfather, as to why she would text her boss at 4 in the morning or close to 4 in the morning that morning saying, I'm not coming into work because my stepfather just got killed in an auto accident?
Mhm.
What was your take on that?
I think it's curious that it happened at that early in the morning. When Ms. Stauch was talking to us, she told us that she doesn't remember specifically doing that, and that she knows that that happened because it's in discovery.
And that was going to be my next question. Did Ms. Stauch appear to refer to things that are in discovery as she's explaining her accounts?
Yes.
And in that particular moment, did it appear to you that she's trying to explain as to why she would say, my stepfather just died, I can't come into work?
It's possible. I would say that whole interview, the first time around, we had concerns that she was explaining evidence more so than trying to give us her version of what occurred, which is something that we tried to address the second time that we spoke to her.
And we're going to play that later, maybe this morning, maybe this afternoon. During the course of her interview, she repeatedly said, my team, my attorneys, we came up with this. What was your take on that?
Again, it was concerning for us as evaluators because we picked up on that language as well. As I noted earlier, we are trying to get a pure version of events from a defendant during sanity evaluations. So when she says things like, this is what we came up with, it does make me wonder a bit further what that means, because it does sound like, again, trying to explain the evidence that is available.
Is it consistent with how she did on the psychological testing that stated she was exaggerating symptoms?
I don't know that I would say those two things are specifically consistent, but I think that throughout this case, there were concerns about Ms. Stauch's credibility, whether it was in regards to the way that she told us what happened that day, given the inconsistencies, in addition to the exaggeration of mental health symptoms on the testing that we did.
She talked to you about falling down the stairs. You recall her saying that?
Yes.
And then later in the interview, she talks about being in the garage naked and noticed that her head was matted with blood. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did you recall reviewing a report by a SANE nurse in this case, by the name Van Ness?
Yes.
And were there pictures associated with that report as well?
I don't remember.
Do you recall the SANE nurse mentioning anything about any injuries to her head?
No,
Did she have any injuries to her head?
not that I'm aware.
During the course of the interview on several different occasions, she wanted you to know that Gannon was killed on January 28th and not January 27th. Do you recall that?
Yes.
From reviewing the police reports, what is your understanding as to when, at least from the police reports, the killing happened?
The police report suggests January 27th.
And would that have been sometime between 2:30 to 3:15 that afternoon?
Sometime in the afternoon.
And so it's real clear that she's telling you it didn't happen then. It happened the early morning hours of January 28th, sometime after midnight. Is that what your recollection is?
Correct.
Which would mean the police had already been in the house. They looked around the house. She told you she's memorized the body-worn camera as well. Do you recall her saying that?
Yes.
What was your and Dr. Gray's evaluation of that?
For us, again, the timing of it was less relevant to the question that we were trying to answer. We do know that there is that discrepancy in terms of what the police reports say and what she is saying.
Was part of her, well, was your opinion was that she was trying to convince you that the police had it wrong?
At least in terms of when the killing actually occurred.
And is that something that if someone truly suffers from dissociative identity disorder and they're having some kind of amnesia because they go into a different state of mind, would that be consistent with that?
I would expect, yes.
And Edgar has a relative named Angelica?
I don't remember.
Okay. Again, from review of the police reports and the surveillance video that's monitoring 6627, did you ever see a black BMW show up with two individuals come out and go into the house?
I don't remember seeing that.
She talks about her and Edgar going downstairs. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And what do you recall her saying that she sees as they're going downstairs?
She says she sees someone in the house, someone who's wearing a cape.
And in your expert opinion, is that when, if it happens, a triggering event occurs and she changes into Maria Sanchez?
It's a little hard to tell from her self-report. It seems as though that's what she's trying to imply to some degree because she talks about going into protection mode and she often references Maria as the protector. And at the same time, in her self-report, it seems as though she's explaining what she is seeing, presumably as Letecia Stauch, in terms of seeing someone in a cape.
And that's what I was going to ask you about is someone who has dissociative identity disorder, are they going to be able to recall what happens as a different person? I know that's a weird question, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Once that triggering event happens.
In terms of how Ms. Stauch has explained her dissociative identity disorder, she doesn't have access to Maria. She can't tell us what Maria is thinking at any point in time. So I would think that if Ms. Stauch had dissociated into Maria, there would be a lack of awareness or understanding or memory for that period of time from Ms. Stauch's perspective.
And would it be common if someone is truly legally insane at that moment? Would it be common for them to say, I blacked out, I don't know what happened after that moment?
That happens a lot.
Does that happen a lot in criminal cases?
I suspect it happens often enough in criminal cases.
Where insanity is an issue.
Where insanity is an issue, it's common, I would say, for people to have periods of not remembering, especially if they are having some sort of acute mental health crisis at that moment.
So in this particular case of Ms. Stauch, if she had dissociative identity disorder to the point where it turned into a severe mental disease or defect as defined in the insanity statutes, would you expect her to have recall of the events that took place after she went to a different persona?
I would expect her to report more loss of memory for those things.
I think that answered, I think we're saying the same thing. So you wouldn't expect her to give you details about Gannon standing on the bed with a blanket around him?
Not if she was dissociating at the moment.
And did she ever explain to you and Dr. Gray how she could go from protected mode, where Gannon was part of this protected mode, to killing Gannon?
We never asked her that question specifically. However, her self-report to us implies that she didn't know it was Gannon and that she thought it was somebody who had come into the home, possibly an intruder.
But as she talks about Maria, is it clear that Maria Sanchez, based on what Mitch Stauch is telling you, knew who Gannon was and that she was there to protect him?
That's my understanding.
And as she's telling you about this tall person who she perceived to be tall because Gannon's on the bed, do you recall her mentioning that that's what she talked about with her attorneys and that's what her attorneys told her?
I think she did make mention that that was part of the conversations that she had with her attorneys.
And you know the circumstances of how Gannon was found in Florida?
Yes.
Do you know the bedding material that is wrapped around him in this suitcase?
Yes.
Is it consistent with what she's telling you he has wrapped around him, this red and black blanket?
Oh, I don't remember the colors of the blanket.
At some point, she says Lena wakes up. And she says Lena actually helps carry Gannon after he's been shot up the stairs, the car, and the garage. Do you remember telling you that?
Yes,
Did you review the interview that was conducted with Letecia Stauch with regards to this investigation?
I did.
Do you recall the last time she said she saw Gannon?
I don't recall the last time she said, but I don't think it's consistent with being present or carrying a body up the stairs.
If she would have said that in her interview, you think you would have remembered that, especially when Ms. Stauch says it here?
Yes.
Do you remember other interviews that Ms. Stauch gave where she talks about Lena coming home from school and she had to do her laps and went to the mailbox and rode her bike and didn't come into the house?
Yes.
She goes into the fact that she tried to bring Gannon back to life. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Is there any significance to her saying that to you?
We considered that. So I'd say that it does have some significance. However, as it pertains to the issue of insanity, again, insanity is such a narrow focus. This is stuff that would have happened following the actual shooting. So it doesn't speak so much to the time of the offense as it pertains to the issue of a murder. In terms of the charges of tampering with a deceased human body, it has more weight on that. So it was interesting to us that she said that she took the body from one place to another and then even was hopeful to find this Mr. Womack to have some sort of resurrection.
And do you recall Lena saying anything about that in the review of her interview about them driving around trying to bring him back to life in the car?
I don't remember her saying anything about that.
Do you remember reading any police reports or seeing any surveillance video of that happening?
No.
She also tells you that she got hit in the leg with a bullet. Do you recall her saying that?
Yes.
What was that all about?
I don't know. We didn't follow up on that.
Had you read or seen any medical reports or anything that said she had been shot in the leg with a bullet?
No.
At some point, she says that Harley and Lena's faces are white, like they just seen a ghost. Do you remember her saying that?
Yes.
Would you expect Harley to recall that if that actually happened?
Yes.
Would you expect Lena to recall that if that actually happened?
Possibly.
When she was talking to you about Gannon talking to her and Lena as they're going up the stairs, do you recall that line of questioning?
Yes.
She said that she was switching, or she was having different personalities at that point. Do you recall her saying that?
As they were going up the stairs?
Yes.
Vaguely.
Okay. Any relevance to that, to your opinion?
If the events occurred as Ms. Stauch has said that they did, to me, it would not surprise me that somebody might go into some sort of shock. And if she had a mental illness like a dissociative identity disorder, it wouldn't surprise me if that would cause some sort of a reaction or exacerbation of symptoms. And at the same time, it's unclear to me from Ms. Stauch's report who she was dissociating into or what exactly was occurring, how much of it was her or one of the personalities that she shares worlds with, as well as when events occurred, when she looked at the body to find out it was Gannon's body, given some inconsistencies.
I'm going to use the word you used, if this happened, if she's switching personalities and going through this dissociated state, would a family member notice that right away?
I would think so.
Would Harley notice that right away?
I would think somebody would see something,
Would her brother Dakota Lowry notice that right away when he got it?
potentially.
What about Al Stauch when she picks him up at the airport hours later? Would he notice something like that?
I would think so.
In fact, in the DSM-5, does it not state that family members would certainly notice something obviously strange with an individual who suffers from dissociative identity disorder?
I would think eventually, if it was a severe presentation of dissociative identity disorder, we've talked about how sometimes it's subtle and it's not readily visible to other people when somebody's switching from one state to another. But that being said, family members might notice a loss of, family members might notice that person reporting a loss of time or even seeming to forget things that happened in the day, potentially even forgetting who they are. It just depends on how the specific illness presents in that person.
She talked to you about not knowing how to shoot a gun. Do you remember her saying that to you?
Yes.
Was that consistent with what she told you earlier about how she took the gun away from Edgar and shot this intruder?
It is somewhat inconsistent, and at the same time, I could see somebody saying that they don't know how to shoot a gun, but still being able to carry out that act.
Is it common for people who own guns not to know how to shoot them?
I would hope that people who own guns know how to shoot them.
Do you remember saying that she memorized the autopsy was wrong, it was only one gunshot?
Yes.
You remember attributing the stab wounds to saying they weren't stab wounds, they were burn marks?
Yes.
What was your take on that, her inconsistency with what actually happened in the death of Gannon Stauch?
Again, it was noted that her self-report of the events didn't line up with the police reports or the other evidence available.
And did she ever mention to you anything about blunt force trauma to the head that was in the autopsy report?
No.
She goes into talking about whether or not she moved Gannon's body afterwards. Do you recall that?
Yes.
She said she didn't want to incriminate anyone, and so I'm not going to tell you a person's name. Do you remember saying something like that?
Yes.
Did you see any indication in the police reports or anything that you reviewed indicating that someone helped her move Gannon from A to B?
No.
Is it pretty readily noticeable in the police reports that Gannon's body was taken to the Palmer Lake area first,
Yes.
that his body was then picked up,
Yes.
and then later drove to Florida?
Correct.
And did she at any time explain how all that happened?
No.
In fact, Dr. Gray, I believe the question that was asked with about 20 minutes left was, so you don't recall going to Florida, or words to that effect? Do you remember that question?
Yeah, he had asked how the body ended up in Florida, or we were trying to clarify her statements because she seemed to be suggesting that she was not involved in that.
And again, she indicated that she wanted Gannon to have a proper burial in South Carolina on his grandparents' farm. Do you remember saying that, her saying that?
Yes.
Is that inconsistent with not moving the body to the East Coast, I guess?
It would imply that at the time of the shooting, or around the time of the shooting, that she had some thought that the body should go to South Carolina. We know it didn't end up there.
Okay. But in your opinion, is that kind of inconsistent? One hand, she's saying, I didn't have anything to move in the body. The second hand, she's saying, I wanted to have a proper burial in South Carolina.
Again, I feel like both of those things could exist separately from one another. It's just interesting to me that she would have had the thought that the body needed to be moved, given the circumstances.
And do you recall her telling you and Dr. Gray that a male person, a family member, helped her move the body?
Yes.
And do you know who that family member was?
No.
Did she ever tell you who that family member was?
No.
Do you know who the only male family member who was here at that time was?
I think it might have been her brother.
And would that have been Dakota Lowry?
Yes.
You just have a second, Your Honor. At some point, she says, I know I was in a form of psychosis, hallucinations, person in a cave.
Yes.
Is that common for someone to say those words if they are truly, in fact, experiencing a psychotic event?
Only if they have good enough insight after the fact to be able to relay that information.
She said that she read certain books cover to cover. Do you remember saying things like that?
Yes.
In specific, when she was talking about, I didn't know right from wrong, I read a book cover to cover. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
Did it lead you and Dr. Gray to the understanding that maybe she did some research prior to coming in and giving you this statement?
The verbiage that she used during the interview suggested that.
And when she said that, is that when she said, I'm telling you the 100% of the truth? It was on January 28th, not January 27th.
Yes.
She showed emotion, what appeared to be emotion during the video. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Did that happen when she would talk about what others were saying about her?
Yes.
Did she show any emotion when she talked about bringing Gannon up the stairs and his last breath that she talked about?
Not in the same way.
Does that contribute to your initial diagnosis of, correct me because I'm going to wing this, is it borderline narcissism?
Yes, a personality disorder.
Is that the narcissism you're talking about where she cares about herself?
I think it can be expressed in that manner.
She talked to you about CJC, which is the jail, right?
Yes.
Not being real. Do you remember her saying those words?
I don't remember that so clearly.
We won't ask questions about it, or I won't ask questions about it. Towards the end of the interview, she says, females who kill people are psychopaths. They poison people. Remember her saying that?
Yes.
Do you recall from the autopsy whether or not Gannon had quite a bit of hydrocodone in his system when he died?
I remember reading that somewhere.
Now, she comes back on June 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
Was that date already in plan, or how did that date come about as for her coming back for you and Dr. Gray to interview her?
That was the soonest that we could set the interview, given some vacation time, but also we were waiting for some documents, I believe, from Mr. Tellini as it related to possibly interviews with family members. We were waiting for something else in addition.
Okay. And so up until this point, had you made an opinion with regard to Ms. Stauch's sanity?
Not yet.
You're still gathering information?
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, I'm going to play a portion. Let me see how much, Your Honor. Do you want to start it now, or do you want to wait and?
Council approach for a minute.
Yes. We're going to go ahead and start the video, and then we're going to take a lunch break. So if you want to have a seat in the back, you can do that. And so for the record, Your Honor, this is going to be People's Exhibit 728. We're going to start it at 57 minutes and 33 seconds, and we'll stop it when I see you look at me and tell me to stop it.
Around dark, Charlie comes home. We go to stuff we're supposed to get or whatever. And then at some point, we were going to go eat sushi. That's when we started. Would have been right, maybe 5, 16 or whatever. So then we started looking for Gannon. One of us texts Albert. I don't have any of the contact numbers of anybody that was there. So we come out, which was not till I thought, but that's when we thought the police showed up, which was an hours late. But they know I never left the house. So the cops came out, looked around the house, they did interviews, and all of it. I was concerned because I couldn't figure out where the hiding spot was at. Because when we did whenever all the YouTube challenge rules, we went over, like, don't do this, don't do that, don't hide in certain spots that you can't breathe, or don't, you put yourself in a bind. And the kids have their own YouTube channel, so they did this when they went to their moms too. So. It almost felt like this wasn't really going on, because I'm like, okay, now how in the world did you hide? And the cops have came in here, they're looking for you, they're looking through the house, they went in the cars, they're like, you go in the cars. I gave them permission to go to the house. So if anything out of order, they walked in every room, anything out of order, anything there. That's because nothing happened, nothing's out of order. So that's when I just started being like, okay, where's this hiding spot? I thought at the time, maybe it was just like at a friend's house. And the only thing I know is that guy, had people going to that dude kid's house or whatever. So it gets dark and we're all just sitting there, like, trying to figure out what's going on. I was in a little bit of a shock because it wasn't, like, if this would have been Lena, like, who went to the person's house, go to strangers or whatever, then it would, I'd have been like, it wasn't a shock to me. But it being Gannon going to a stranger's house, like, they're shocking too. So I couldn't really figure out why. So please come back out to check on me because that's when I started panicking. Albert sends the police back to check on me. That was late night, like, late. So please come back to check on me, and I'm just in a panic at that point in time, and he's like, well, we're going to put people all around the house. There was a like, and this will be 1 hour of searching the house. We're all upstairs because I told Harley and Lena to sleep upstairs with me because I didn't want them downstairs. I wanted them in my stuff here. But I remember going on the sofa. I don't know how long it was. I was sitting on the sofa. I kept hearing knocking sounds. Well, if you ask for like the one footage of where my car just goes out the driveway and comes back in or whatever, that would have been around the time of the knocking sounds when what we did it. That time when we did it. So I heard the knocking sounds and I kept trying to figure out whether there's someone at the door because I thought they were trying to, if I had walked out to the garage to leave at some point, but then if they'd been knocking on my door, on my window, who would have known that was our bedroom window? Like, why were they trying to get me to go outside? I just kept going up and down the stairs, going in the room checking. One of the times I fell down the stairs, that's how my blood got on the stairs because I would like hit my head with socks on running downstairs or whatever. That's how my blood got on the stairs or whatever. Kept hearing knocking, I kept going and searching, I kept asking the girls, they hear that. Then Kai's dad came by, we're still coming during the night, like during the late night, whatever. At some point I remember laying back on the sofa and just kind of like dazing out for a while because honestly I thought this was all just like from the nightmare I was talking about. But then there's noise, I ran down the stairs. I don't know exactly how. So my handgun was inside a car. I was already like earlier, like, is this your handgun? Yes, I told him, no, be careful, there's a handgun in the car, like all that stuff. So I don't know if he had the possession, I had got possession of them. Like I said, I don't know, but at some point somehow I saw come across the vision down the stairs, like someone in the shadow. I seen a shadow going across. I ran back up the stairs, started freaking out, and then came down the stairs. There's a shadow, there's some moving object, body moving in the house or whatever. So I didn't hear anything. I heard a loud noise when I was back upstairs. If you've seen the views of the house, there was top floor, bottom floor. So I was going up and down trying to figure out where these noises were coming from. So I heard the loud noise upstairs. And his room was my room. So when I was in my room, I heard it again. At some point in time, either I grabbed it from Edgar and moved like someone in a cape. Or you would wear. I said I used to wear these like. Are you familiar? If you're familiar with like the Native American culture, They were these like regalia things. He had this whole red and black thing because Dad's shirt killed his mom, and it was like someone in red and black. I don't even know how quickly it happened. I just kept hearing Ecclesiastics 3:3 in my head. Ecclesiastics 3:3, Ecclesiastics 3:3. Trying to kill, like, you know. Because obviously, my stepdad, when he died, he got carried 602 feet on the car. He got hit and died. My phone was off the road. I'm sure it was fast. But that was just what I kept saying in my head, make it fast. Ecclesiastics 3:3. I don't know how long had transpired after that, but when I came back through, Lena was freaking out. She was just standing there. I don't know what I said to her, but then she tried to help me take Gannon upstairs. Take him to the hospital. If you look at me before, you'll see she's talking about trying to help carry Gannon. We just had our days all running together because it was very traumatic for her too. But when we tried to take Gannon to the hospital, to the car, and it was outside, I don't know how long I was sitting in my car. I just was in the passenger. Okay. Like I was in and out. One minute I could see myself in the passenger side, next minute I couldn't figure out who was driving the car. And I didn't see palm trees when we tried to pull out. And that's why I think I must have thought I was in Carolina, because there's palm trees going to the hospital. If you've ever seen a picture of like how like Rodeo Drive goes down with palm trees, that's how it looks in Carolina. Then you go down to the beach and there's Grand Strand Hospital there, which I've been to many times. Yeah, that's Grand Strand. Then on, I think I was completely in shock because I was trying to like get a better life. But if you think about it, like there's a lot that went on in the Bible where Jesus was able to Jairus' his daughter bring her back to life. Many situations where he gave his disciples the ability to bring people back to life. I know at some point in time during that, Maria felt a threat of what she does. Child molesters, someone who hurts children, someone who rapes women, not to mention what was going on in the garage. That's the way she protects them. Eliminate the threat. But once me and Lena are sitting there trying to go to the hospital, like, I'm realizing, like, what is going on. Mode kicked in of the I tried to get them burden. Even at the GameStop, they tried to get the footage from GameStop. I don't know if they got it or not, but I was trying to get in the game. I already told him he was going to get it for $60. Edgar was with me during that time, but I don't know where he went during that time. Well, going back through and I was sitting in the car again on the passenger side. I go back in the house and everybody's just like, Lena's like white like a ghost, like she's seen a ghost. Just kept telling everybody he's gonna be okay, he's gonna be fine, and they're just asking me questions like, where's Gannon at? He's gonna be fine. Find him. Because I didn't. What had happened during that traumatic experience, I wasn't real to. You gotta imagine if you were just somewhere and then all of a sudden you're trying to bring somebody back to life and then now you don't know where he's at and you're telling everybody it'll be okay. Coherence, all a gap. A little bit of coherency, a gap. As you can see, if you look at the evidence from then on, it just spiraled. Telling people about people to get me. What was going on? I was trying to piece together what had really happened, you know. some point, I know it was Maria telling them about Mike was dead. But that wasn't what she would have done. It eliminated someone who molested them. So the stories that are on the evidence are all over the place because I really didn't know how to put together the pieces. I had time memories here and time lapses there, and then visions here, visions there. One minute I was in Carolina, one minute I wasn't. And I thought it was just a nightmare I was going to wake up from. I thought there was going to be cameras just pop out. Like, one horrible, cruel joke, you know. Talking in like word salads. Talking like this, that. Going to Disney World. And like, so I have no idea I even done that. I have no idea what I was talking about. Talking about, like, evidence somewhere it has searched on my phone. I think it was February or January or something. So I'm trying to find what to do when someone gets shot and went to shock. Like, I don't remember even putting any of that stuff in any of the searches, but all of the things that had happened over my life just all in and out, in and out, doing this.
And I stopped it at 1:13:41 just because I thought that might be a good spot.
Okay, all right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will take our lunch break. If I can have everyone back in the jury room a little bit before 1:30, we should be able to start on time at that point. Again, don't discuss case among